We need it. Oxygen. It's why we breathe.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Small Biz Stories. Every week, you know me, I'm your host, Dr. LL, and we bring in all kinds of wonderful guests talking about every aspect of small business, from those folks who are running and operating small businesses to those folks who wish that they were, right? If only they knew all the secrets that we all knew. All right, so we're going to get to some of that. In the house today, we've got Robert Kennedy III. He is the CEO of Kinetic Communications, and it is all about how do you connect through storytelling, through using video, through narration, and bringing all kinds of new ideas forward in ways that instantly connect with people and help drive that retention that you want as a brand. Robert, welcome to the show.
Hey, Laura Lynn, listen, do me a favor. You did a fabulous introduction, but we're both speakers and we like to make an entrance to the stage. So do me a favor. Just say, ladies and gentlemen, introducing Robert Kennedy III. Go ahead.
Let me do it. Ladies and gentlemen, and other folks and whomever you identify as, I don't care if you identify as a cat, we've got Robert Kennedy III.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. I got to bring some people.
I should know better than to dance on video because I was not gifted with that lane. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. You are awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction. You're like such a professional. I love it.
It's all fun. Well, what I love is that people that really get into figuring out how to use their voice. I
Hmm.
do some training on folks with leadership, and it's all about
Yeah.
how do you up level, right? If you can't influence people and you can't communicate and get people to move them forward, how in the heck are you going to lead when you're up front going, yeah, and yeah, I just I kind of just sort of want you to like, well, I don't know, can you do it? No, 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 no.
I don't
That
wanna.
is not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Excellent.
It's all good. So I always like to start our show off with a visual because not everybody's dialed into the YouTube midlife success visual experience. Some folks are old school, haha, and they like to listen to it through Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all the other
Mhm.
places that were syndicated. So I like my guests to give a visual to those people. They either describe their background and or themselves, and it's like, hey, listeners, paint this picture in your head.
Yeah. So paint this picture in your head, listeners. You have entered the blue zone. There is an office with some strategically placed lighting in the background. There's an on-air sign that is sort of pulsing in the background just a touch, but it is there and it is on a bookshelf with some blue lighting, and there's a gentleman in the center of the screen with a blue shirt on, and he's got a microphone in front of him with an orange cover. Why does he have blue and orange in front of him, you ask? Well, he was forming his company several years ago, and he went through this color psychology exercise. The color blue is the color of trust and authenticity. The color orange is the color of energy and enthusiasm. His brand brings that mix of energy, enthusiasm, as well as trust, authority, and influence. And so that's what he strategically and intentionally wants you to see every single time he's on camera and on screen. Robert Kennedy III, RK3. That's me.
Have people ever asked you that question on the podcasts you've been in?
No, I have never, ever, ever in my life been asked to paint a verbal and auditory picture of my background. No, that's a new one. Thank you for that. I
There we
love
go.
new
So we've already
experiences.
started off. We're breaking new ground, right? This is
Yeah.
fabulous. It's just going to get better from here. All right.
Yep.
Then I like to get into it and ask our guests a question which stumps many of them. You're thinking, oh, geez, Louise, here we go. She's just going to stump it just to get started. I think it's actually an easy question, but people
Yeah.
struggle. What are you not you, RK3, your business and Kinetic Communications. What are you good at? What do you do? What are you, Robert, the human being, really good at? Like, and asked another way, what is your personal superpower?
I'm a light. I'm a light to the world. I show up in spaces where people are they're leaning into negativity, or they're leaning into I can't, or they're leaning into that's not possible. And I show up in that space and say, yeah, it is possible. As a matter of fact, this is how we can do it. It may not be perfect. It may not even get us to the place that we wanted to go to initially. But that thing that you see, that light at the end of the tunnel, that's me. And you hit up with me right there, and I'll get you to where you want to go.
Well, I love that. Not too long ago, I had a guest and I asked, and they said, well, I'm all about being that beacon of hope, something for people to gravitate towards. So when they
Mhm.
are misguided or they've lost their way, I can redirect them
I love
to
it.
where they should be and then be heart centered. And I was like, oh, yeah. Every once in a while, I get a response just like you've given me, where I go, ooh, little goosebumps. I'm like, that's awesome. That you can just feel like the energy with that, right? So
Yeah.
fantastic. All right, so let's get into some things here. So actually, even before we do that, I'm going to roll back. Given your name, Robert
Hmm.
Kennedy III,
Yep.
and just happens that you happen to have one of those names that few famous people out there in the universe have,
Yeah.
what's that been like for you? Because I'll tell you, as someone looking up and trying to get information, it's very difficult to find you, the Robert Kennedy III I'm speaking to right now on this podcast, versus others. So talk to
Yeah.
me about having a famous name.
Yeah. So you know what? I will say it's got its great points, and then there's some points where it's not great, in that if the Robert Kennedys of the world don't do certain things, then some if there's something negative, or there's a negative perception of someone, then people bring that up sometimes. But that said, it's always a conversation piece. It's always been a conversation piece. And I make jokes of it most of the time. As a matter of fact, quite often it opens doors, or it opens places for me that I may not have normally gotten into without the name. And not it, it's not about getting into the White House or anything like that. But it's at least opened up the doors to certain conversations. It's led to level setting, small talk where there may not have been any. So it's been really cool to have the name. And to be quite frank, when I'm searching for myself, if I'm Googling myself, I always put Robert Kennedy III and put it in quotation marks, because that narrows it down quite a bit. If you just put Robert Kennedy, I get a bunch of different things. But if you put Robert Kennedy III, you're probably going to see Robert Kennedy III, communication speaker, communication coach, RK3, podcaster, etc. You're probably going to see that somewhere on the first page. So that's one of the reasons why the third is something that I always include in my moniker.
Oh, you absolutely need it because it's hard to find things out there and find folks,
Yeah.
especially like I said, with the increased number of people who are online with their own podcasts, with their own
Yeah.
websites, da, 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 right? It just goes on and on and on. But I thought it was kind of fun. And on someone on the flip side who nobody can spell my name, let alone pronounce it, I was like, ooh, how fun would it be to have one of those names where everybody instantly knew and they don't ask you, can you tell me how to spell Kennedy? Right?
I
They
get
don't
that all
even
the time.
know.
I do. I do. I
How
get
connected.
Kennedy. Oh, is that one N, or is it, how do you spell Kennedy? I get it all the time. Yeah.
Mind blown. Can't even imagine. So I remember when I was during my college years, and we were in a house, and there were five of us gals, and
Yeah.
all of the other gals had a name, and I won't give their names because I don't have their permission to use them publicly, but all of their names were just the instant and easy names to spell.
Right.
Karen's, Patricia's, things like that, and their last names equally easy. And so whenever we had a utility issue or something, because the gas or the oil or this or that was in one name or the other name or whatever, like, oh, Laurel, and you're home during the day here, why don't you give a call between your classes? And I'm like, okay, hi, I'm, whatever name, Karen, da da da. And I never had to spell it. And it was amazing. I loved it. So
Yeah.
That's a good segue for us to get into some of what you do and talk about around the space, all about storytelling, so that you can
Mhm.
use communication to be able to connect with people, to move people, either to compel them to do a call to action, or to move them along to drive influence, or
Yeah.
to simply move them along so that they can connect and resonate with your story. Talk to us about really storytelling itself, and not the how to do the storytelling, but talk to us about storytelling, how it's become really front and center in how people are engaging with others now with all this behind the screen time we're facing.
Yeah. Well, I just did a session on Wednesday for a group of nonprofits called The Power of Storytelling. And their job was to shine a light on the nonprofits, and they were creating videos and those types of things. And so they wanted to know quite a bit about storytelling. What was happening, though, inside of the nonprofits, inside of many organizations, when we're told, hey, we need to share information with the public to get them to donate or to do anything around the mission that we're after, they tended to think of stories in two ways. One, oh, let's just give them all of the data. Let's just give them all of the information, how we've been successful over the last 30 years. Or they thought of stories as, hey, we need to get one of our clients and we need to film their story. And I'm like, sure, that is one type of story. Matter of fact, I refer to that case study, client study, conversion story, when you're able to show what your services or your solutions have been able to do for the people that you serve. That is one way. But I also introduced something else called the origin story, which people know about, but they don't really use it enough, because your origin story really leans into why you do what you do, right? I used the example of Warby Parker, the eyewear company. And they, for those that don't know the story, or the origin story of Warby Parker was 4 or 5 college students were on a camping trip and they went hiking. One of the students on the hiking trip dropped their glasses. Somebody stepped on it, it broke. And they had to squint for the rest of the semester because they couldn't afford to replace their glasses. Right. And so that person made the decision, oh my gosh, I have to suffer throughout this semester because I don't have enough money. I'm a broke college student. Nobody else should ever have to experience this. Right? Nobody should have to be blind or to struggle in the world from a visual perspective simply because the insurance company, the health company, the eyewear industry decides that the cost is going to be astronomical. That's unfair. And so that was why the company started. So if more of us said, what is our why? Why is it that I do what I do? Right? That allows people to then connect with our reason, as opposed to just viewing us as salespeople. They say, oh my gosh, these people were real human beings with a real experience that is similar to an experience that either I had or somebody that I know had. And I can vibe with it. I can connect with it. And so I'm going to give them just a little bit more of my time. I'm going to listen to them. And maybe, just maybe, if I like them enough and trust them enough, then I'll buy something from them.
Oh, but that's just it. And so I'm surprised to hear you say that people aren't using their origin story enough, because you look at the deluge, right? Because there is
Yeah.
no other word. Well, maybe tsunami, you might want to use that, of the information that's out there, all the videos. Look at me. I got this, I got that. Watch me. We're inundated.
Yeah.
And you say people aren't talking enough about their origin. And then in parallel, of course, we've got Simon Sinek, who's built I don't even know, 8, 9, whatever figure business that it is, talking
Yep.
about start with
Why?
why. So why
Yeah.
isn't everybody dialed in?
Well, many people aren't dialed in because they're ashamed of where they came from or where they started. And because we're in a social media space where we compare ourselves to others, or because we're in a space where being vulnerable is hard for people. We want to look a certain way, right? And we feel like if people know where we started from, especially if we haven't made it to the top yet, they're going to criticize us. They're going to judge us. They're going to make fun of us, and they're going to post mean things in our comments on our videos. And so
Yes,
most
they do.
people, yeah, and they do. And they do. And so most people shy away from that. As much as we know in our hearts that no human being is perfect, we still want to show up as perfect. We still want to show up as flawless. It's why we have filters on Instagram, right? We show up and we're like, "Oh, I want to make sure that my skin looks a certain way. I want my lighting to be a certain way," right? Because we don't want to show up as flawed.
Right. Because we're a judgy people.
Yep.
That's the problem, right? So
Yep.
many like judgy folks out there. And you talk about comments and stuff. I had this one podcast that I did, particularly intense topic around toxic
Yeah.
relationships and navigating them and this kind of thing. And this person went on and on commenting about my scarf. Do you realize you look like an old woman? Women don't wear scarves like that anymore. That looks totally not fashionable. Da 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 da. And I'm thinking, what? Like,
Yeah.
did you listen to the episode about how people become more toxic, but they don't need to be that toxic, and they should really think about what they're saying and how their words land on other people? But I guess you
Yeah.
didn't watch the episode. You got wrapped around the axle literally with my scarf.
Yep. 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 It's a tough environment, and I think we've got to do a bit better with being self-aware, being introspective, and understanding that when we do share our stories, when we do share a bit of vulnerability, those are some of the most attractive moments. Those are some of the there's this company called Humans of New York, and they film videos about real people in New York City, and they just share their stories. And my God, it's like you look at those people and you say, well, I've never been homeless, but what if I was? How would I like people to treat me? And they talk about all of the experiences that they've had. And it's not only homeless people. It may be an artist or an actress, a struggling actress or actor or acting person that is trying to make it in New York City, and people see those on the shows and on Broadway that have made it. And now we take them through, hey, this is the background. This is what it's really like. These are the obstacles that we've had to navigate and pursue and fight through in order to even have a shot at the success that we dream of. And so hearing and seeing those stories are it's redeeming, it's vulnerable, it's hopeful. It's like, yeah, you know what? It's a challenge, but if that person can make it, if that person can fight through all of the challenging odds, look at my life. I mean, I got a good life. I can certainly handle my little struggle.
But that's just it. There's a couple of points in there that I want to make.
Yeah.
One, it's about that mindset that you take and how you flip it around, and you're not portraying all of the evil and the negative. It's not
Yeah.
that you are ignoring the pink elephant in the room. It's how you are looking at it, how you are framing it, right? Which is part of the art of storytelling, the frame.
Yes.
And then the second thing that I was going to add and point to make on that, I remember long ago, I live in New Jersey, and so I'm frequently in New York City, and I
Mhm.
saw folks filming the Humans of New York. And that was really my introduction to social media. I really wasn't on social media in that before. And so they became one of the first ones that I followed and learned from
Yeah.
and watched. And it was just fascinating to see how they told the stories. And what I think I might have even been more fascinated by was how people in New York who are pretty hardcore and really, I don't want your playbill, I don't want your stuff, like, shoo, 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 right? You don't even
Yeah.
look at them, you just keep going, that people stopped to be
Yep.
interviewed. That
Hmm.
was the thing that surprised me, I think, maybe the most.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as hardcore as we are, I believe all of us still want to be seen. There are a lot of us that hide and we don't want to be judged. And it's kind of a oxymoron almost, right? We don't want to be judged. We don't want to be criticized. We want to be hidden, but there's something in us that wants to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be affirmed. We want to be acknowledged. We want companionship. We want people to do life with, right? We want to be accepted. So yeah, it's a great life.
Now, I'd like to get into a tip because I like to get in
Yeah.
tips like early in the show without waiting. Oh, let's wait until the end and wait for the tip so that we can bait you there because that's one of my
Yeah.
personal soapboxes. I do not want to be on that webinar. Let me tell you, step right up. Here are all the examples. And I'm going to tell you at the end of the show how you too can be part of what, da, da, da. And then at 59
45
minutes,
minutes later. Yeah.
right, or 59 usually,
Yeah.
click that link right there and we're going to unlock all the secrets for you. And you click the
Yeah.
link at 59 minutes and it's like, oh, for only $499, I can
Yeah.
buy the secret. It's like, I just spent 59 minutes listening for the damn secret. Just cough it up, right?
Yep. Yep.
Drives me crazy. So let's get to a tip. How should people best open a public presentation, a talk
Ooh,
to excite their audience so they can
I
kind of win
love
them?
this. Listen, I didn't even let you finish the
You.
question properly. I love it. So, yeah, one of the biggest tips that I give is you don't want the audience to focus on you. You want them to focus on themselves and their experiences. And so, one of the easiest ways to do that, the cheat code for doing that, is by asking a question. Asking a question. Here's how our brains work. Our brains work. There's a process that our brains go through called instinctive elaboration, and it simply means that whenever a question is asked, our brains can't help but answer it. Our brains are always looking for patterns. Our brain is always looking for what connects and what's next. And anytime a question is asked, our brain sorts through its mental Rolodex or its mental catalog and says, okay, did I experience this? Do I want to experience this? Did I not experience this? Is this something that I may put on hold or what? It's looking for a connection. And so when you ask a question, the mind immediately begins to play a video, create an image of some sort in order to create that connection to the audible words that you are saying. So asking a question immediately takes the attention off of you and it focuses it in their brain so that they can then, emotionally connect to what you're saying. So that is an easy win for you. Ask a good question. And well, let me add one thing to that. Not a yes or no question. Try to get as open as you can, and it may not always be a question. It might even be imagine this or picture this moment. Yeah, but send them internal first. Ask the question.
You have to, exactly. So they don't get wrapped around the axle about the scarf you chose to wear. Maybe you have a cold neck, and when you're talking all the time, you want to keep
Yeah.
your neck warm.
Yeah.
I think of one of my favorite and now deceased singers I went to college with, Gord Downie of the Tragically Hip, Canada's big band,
Mhm.
united the country. And he always wore actually socks twist tied around his neck to keep his neck warm because his voice got sore. Yeah, so maybe people just want to wear a scarf, let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Let it go.
All right, let's keep going into this and on the talk. So you see all of these folks who are trying to leverage generative AI. We have a
Mhm.
great opening hook for my talk, and then they're asking for a joke. And so the generative AI, their tool of choice, comes up with some silly, snarky, offside or appropriate, whatever it is, joke. And then I've seen these speakers who are trying to open their presentations, and they might be talking about something like, oh, I don't know, glioblastoma cells and how to be able to best target them to minimize the negative effects of a brain cancer diagnosis and try to manage the treatment. And they'll open up with one of these generative AI jokes, and it falls flat every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So, what do you tell folks about using jokes in their presentations?
Well, I say that humor is a great thing. I believe humor is one of the elements that is really powerful in presentations. However, everybody is not a comedian. Not everybody has the gift of comedy. Not everybody has that gift. I mean, and comedy is storytelling, right? At its finest. It is this you create this context and you have this setup and then there's this punchline that then leads people to another place. Not everybody has that particular gift. I don't have that gift. I don't. I mean, I may tell jokes from time to time, but I don't have the gift of standing on stage for 30 minutes and just, laying it out and just making people laugh. But what makes people laugh ultimately is experiences, connecting with them, and authenticity around that. So if you can be self deprecating, if you can just laugh, and when I say self deprecating, it doesn't necessarily mean put yourself down. There are times where I've gone up on stage and I've said something, and I didn't tell a joke specifically, but I said something that I thought was funny and it didn't land. And I'll say, well, geez, strike that one off. I'm not telling that one again. I thought that was funny. And then I might laugh. I might stop. And sometimes, have you ever been in a room, Laurelyn, where somebody said something and it wasn't really that funny, but they just cracked up laughing and you started laughing just because they were laughing?
I mean, especially if it's, oh, I don't know, some friends involved, some
Yeah.
adult beverages involved, and then you
Yeah.
just see them, and then you're thinking, oh my God, like what's wrong with you? Like that was totally not funny. And then
Yes.
you start losing
But
your
they're
mind because you're
laughing.
being giddy. Right. And yeah,
Yeah.
everybody
And,
just
and
thinks
so
this,
you
I
start to
know,
smile,
I know.
and that lowers the temperature in the room, right? It breaks the ice. And so um I would say do not intentionally try to include an AI or a knock knock joke or a dad joke into your presentation unless that's who you naturally are. If that's who you naturally, if that's how you show up naturally, then do that. But if you are a person who is, you're talkative, you're energetic, you're gregarious, but you're not a joke teller, then show up as that authentic, energetic person, because people appreciate authenticity and realness around the information that they're receiving. So yeah, yeah, stay away from the AI jokes, people.
Definitely, right? Note to self, right?
Yep.
So you've been at it, Kinetic Communications, not for a while, giving presentations, multiple industries. I know largely real estate, but everything you do obviously has an ability to transcend across industries and spaces and
Yeah.
places and all this sort of thing. So that said, you've been in front of a lot of audiences. How have the audiences shifted? What trends and differences are you seeing in expectations, in reactions with audiences in this post pandemic era? Because I see them as very different, and I want to get your perspectives on how
Mm.
you see them. How are they showing up?
I don't know that I see them as terribly different.
Hmm.
And partly that may partly be because of my background as a teacher, right? I was a high school teacher and I did online college teaching, and I inherently believe that people want to learn. They want the people that are on stage to be great. They don't come into the room with the intention to judge them and immediately down them and talk about their scarves. That wasn't the original intention. Right? I believe they want value. And so I see some of the same things before and after. People want value, people want meaning, they want things that they can apply immediately. They want to know that the time that they're giving is not wasted. They want to know that that space that they're in is going to be something that can ultimately make their lives better pretty quickly. They want something, they want a transformational experience, right? And so yeah, I mean, I think there are a few things that may be different, and I see those more on the meeting planner or event professional end of things than the audience. For me, the audiences are still very welcoming. They're still open to learning, and yeah, I think yeah, that's my view of the audiences that I've been in front of, both pre and post pandemic.
I want to come back to that, but you said that you see, oh, it's different amongst the event planners and the professionals. Do you want to
Yeah.
make a comment or a statement about there, how you see that has shifted?
Well, so before the pandemic, everybody was in person, and everything was keynote. Most things were keynote oriented. Um, Post pandemic, because the virtual platform was introduced quite a bit more, some people began to incorporate, okay, can we think about hybrid? And as we think about hybrid, how do we think about audiences that are not in the room as much? Are there more takeaways? How do we do different how do we involve a little bit more? So I think the interactivity that they're requesting or requiring, that might be a little bit more these days, but I don't think that the audiences themselves are necessarily different in that regard. I think audiences have always wanted to be engaged and interacted with, and they
Oh,
lean towards, or they drifted towards speakers that allowed them to do that.
I agree that that's what audiences are looking for. But to your point about that,
Mhm.
the event planners who are doing the hiring and the selections, they are looking for that higher level of
Yeah,
engagement from their speakers.
yeah,
Because from what I hear and see in the audiences, that everyone is on TikTok. And I don't mean that they're just
yes.
watching and absorbing, everyone is putting content out there. So in this little informal surveys I've done, everyone in the audience thinks it's easy to be a presenter.
Oh
I
yeah.
do it all the time. I do videos all the time. I do my TikToks. I show myself cooking. I show myself
Yeah,
petting my dog. I do all of this. It's so easy. And so that's the expectation. And when you flip it around and try to get it and say, well, okay, if you think it's so very easy, would you be comfortable giving a 30 or 45-minute or 1 hour talk in
yeah,
front of an audience, whatever size they are, be it small or large? Like, no, no, why would I want to do that? That,
yeah,
and then it changes. But when they're sitting in the audience, they have the, I guess, perspective that it's really, really easy to do. And so that
hmm,
the expectation that they have, I think that the bar has really shifted to be very high. And hence,
yeah,
the program planners and event planners need to look for those speakers who are that much more engaging because that's what the audience expects.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There definitely is some of that. I mean, I think the audiences that I've been around, a lot of them don't necessarily think that the TikToking and the videos are easy. They think it looks easy, but when a lot of my talks are about communication and video as a piece of that, and as we start to talk about that, they say, and I talk about the consistency that it requires. What happens really behind the scenes, right? And it's not just about turning on the camera and clicking the red record button and just going. Do you have a framework? Do you have a structure? Do you have a journey? Is there a story that you're taking the audience through? And when I say story, I'm not talking about the actual stories that you're telling. I'm talking about the experience of story, the storytelling framework. What journey are you using to take the audience from where they are now to where you want them to be, or where they would desire themselves being? Right. And so when I'm sharing those types of things, my audiences are typically like, yeah, I don't know. I don't have time. I don't know. Where do I find content? I don't know if I could constantly find content to do this. And I don't know how to do this effectively. I tend to ramble. I'm not sure. And so, I do run into people quite frequently who I have to take from a certain place to realizing, yes, you too can shoot video content. You too can be confident on camera. You too can be even more compelling in your communication. It's not something that people are born with. It is a skill set that can be developed. And over time, you can get to a certain place where, yeah, it does become easier and you're not necessarily checking off every checkbox on your checklist as you go through it. But you begin to naturally do certain things, but you still break it down to certain technical skill sets that will take you through and reach your audience and your prospects much more easily.
Ooh, excellent. Now, you do have a mid-month challenge, don't you? Asking people to
Yes,
participate. Can you talk to our audience about that?
that is the Amplify Your Voice with Video 3-day challenge. So that comes from, there are so many business owners, real estate professionals and small service-based business owners particularly, that are doing the natural marketing. They're posting online, they're putting images, they're sending emails, they're sending email blasts, and they're not getting the response that they want. Part of that is due to the fact that people are overwhelmed and bombarded with information. They have so much that they've got to filter through. And so, what they are looking for is a connection. They're looking to see, okay, what is or who is the brand, which is the company that resonates with me, that I can trust, so that this issue, this challenge, this problem that I have can be solved. And so many business owners are robbing themselves of that opportunity because if you're not showing up on screen, if you're not showing up on stages, if you're not showing up on in places where you've got a number of people, then you're stuck with your one-on-one marketing, right? So speaking on stages, speaking on video allows you to market at scale. You want to do one to many. You want to make sure that your voice is amplified. And hey, guess what? If I'm not on stage and I'm at home in my bed sleeping, if I was doing some videos, those videos still market while I'm asleep.
That's right.
Right. And so that's what the challenge is. How do you do that? How do you set up a system to do that without being overwhelmed? How do you keep that going without you having to flick the levers all day long? Right. So our site is amplifyvoiceandvideo.com, and you can register for the challenge there.
Excellent. So we'll be sure to have that in the notes. Also, when you brought it up, getting on stage, it's the desire of a lot of folks, from business owners to coaches to whomever, people that are just interested. Maybe they've got that book out that's been in them for their whole lives. They finally get it
Yeah.
out, no one's buying it, and they want to get on stage. What advice do you want to offer our listeners on how to get on stage?
So I want to redefine stage for first off. A lot of times when we hear the word stage, we immediately envision a stadium or a big hotel ballroom with thousands of people in attendance. And yes, that is a stage. It's just not the only stage. There are so many stages that you could be on. YouTube is a platform that is a stage, right? Instagram, Facebook, that is a stage. You want to think about your Chamber of Commerce meetings where there is a microphone in the center of the room for people to ask questions. That is a stage, right? You want to think about, okay, listen, let me go to Panera Bread or a restaurant that has a room in the back and host my own event where I can answer questions from people. That is a stage. A lot of us, too many of us, are waiting to be invited to the stadium. We're waiting to be invited to this big thing, and so we ignore all of the other stage opportunities that are available to us and in front of us. Your local library, if you are a member of many libraries, they will let you rent rooms, or they'll give you rooms in the library for free to host your own events for a certain period of time, depending on scheduling. Right? So there is something inside of you. There's a gift that you have. There's some knowledge that you have that you can deliver in a way that only you can deliver it. I'll tell a quick story. When I was teaching high school, I was a physics and biology teacher. And every year I would teach a concept or a framework or an equation, and I would try to explain it. And there would always be one student that just didn't understand it. I don't get it, Mr. K. And so I would say, okay, let me try to explain it another way. And I would go up to the board and I would explain it another way. And the student would say, I don't get it, Mr. K. And I would say, oh my gosh, let me think about a third way. I would explain it a third way, and the student would say, I don't get it, Mr. K. And almost every year, without fail, another student would either be beside them or come across the classroom, sit down beside that student who didn't get it. And they would say, you just do this, 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 and this. And they would quite often repeat the words that I had just said. Right? And in my mind, I'm like, geez, I just said that verbatim. Why do they get it now? But here's the deal. Sometimes people can get the same information from somebody else and they just hear it differently. I like to say that their voice is assigned to that person, right? So you don't know who your voice is assigned to. So get on out there, create your stages, and get on stage and share your story.
And as you were saying that, I was thinking about how that visual of small bands that go to be big bands. They don't start off opening for Taylor Swift or whatever.
Right.
They start off in some little CD bar, something, right? Or garage band, and trying
With
to
10
get out
people.
there. And I mean, one of the videos I go to frequently is Chapel Roan when
Yeah.
she was playing Pink Pony Club 10 years ago in front of two people and a pigeon at some park. And then they fast forward to her at Lollapalooza last year, largest, I guess, congregation of a crowd at the event in its history. And she wasn't even singing. She had her microphone out and everybody else was singing her lyrics. So,
Right.
wow, right? It's where it starts. And it's all about that. So, as we're wrapping up our show, Robert, where can people find you? How can they get in touch with you?
I'm on every social media channel as well. I shouldn't say every social media channel. I'm not on Blue Sky and some of the other stuff. I'm not on Snapchat either. I shouldn't say every. The main social media channels, you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube as Robert Kennedy 3. I'm real Robert Kennedy 3 on TikTok. But the easiest way to reach me is just go to robertkennedy3.me and you can get all my sites and socials there.
Perfect. We'll do that. Last question, signature question of the show. And I've asked
Uh-oh.
hundreds of guests this show. I mean, hundreds of guests on the show. I've asked them this question. So, if we got a peek into your closet and there was a signature footwear or accessory or clothing item that just personifies who you are, Robert Kennedy III, and it just represents everything who you are and your personality, what are we looking at and why? Why is it you?
Oh, that is super easy. If you look on almost all of my speaking pictures online, you're going to find a double-breasted pinstriped suit, right? One of several colors, but there's a blue one that I like to wear. And then on my feet, you will see some sneakers that typically have blue and orange. If it's my Nike Air Force Ones, you'll see the blue front with the orange Nike swoosh on the side. So yeah, that's what's in my closet.
See, there we go. Now we got it. So, Robert Kennedy III, CEO of Kinetic Communication Storytelling Master, who has given us all kinds of ways to think about expanding our definition of stage and how to get out there and get in front of people. Thank you so much for being on our show today.
Laura Lynn, this was fantastic. Thank you so much.
And how about that fantastic intro by Touch Circle?